big business opportunities in the oil and gas sector that we can tailor for small people in the economy, small investors that they can share the prosperity to. And I'm talking about people, you can do it in increments of 50,000 investments or 100,000 and stuff. And to exclude some of the bigger guys from these investment vehicles, where they can invest in other types of investment vehicles, and opportunities. So it is a huge thing that we're talking about now. We have some intense discussions. We've had those discussions for a while, but we have to, that would be one of the key issues in the future. Small people too. So small business. What will we do in the next government to grow small business? First of all, simplifying the bureaucracy to set up and run a small business. So government permitting, government incorporation of companies, even the taxes you pay in small business could be differentiated and be low. Creating through public procurement more opportunities for small business. So already we have thousands of new contractors, but expanding that pool to even more people. How do we get this small farmer who has 5 to 10 acres and maybe of rice land and might be doing fairly well, but can't grow wealthy from that land now because might be able to sustain the family? What support can we give for them to utilize the land for other business opportunities or to create the incubators? Like we have ideas about business incubators too that work extremely well. I recall the one with USAID working with people to, like, even the cook up that day package, which it's really good. This is a simple idea that can grow into a multi-billion dollars business. Simple idea originating from a small business. And so a lot of support at that level, but it's not just the farmers. How do we help the small miners? Small miners have suffered because of recovery rate and also access to land. So we've already started working on a policy to ensure that small miners would have greater access to land and to put in the infrastructure into the land, not just giving them a piece of land, but how can the state support the infrastructure so they can grow. But it's not just the small contractors or the small farmers or the small miners. It is people generally who want to go into entrepreneurship. It would be a big focus on it. Support for small entrepreneurs to enter into the market and to grow. Second big area in the next government, it will be massive. Opening up some land. So for example, when you go to Berbice and you talk to the rice farmers there, a lot of them complain about the land. Small ones who didn't have land for a long time. A lot of them said, people who have leased lands, many who live abroad, government land, they're charging them $40,000 per year to lease the land to the farmers. That is almost cutting half of their profits out. In fact, the guy who's leasing the land to them makes more money than they make per acre every year. That's what you hear from small people, especially the small farmers. So there are a couple of things you can do, because people who lease government land, you can ensure that the land rental, the lease rates are reasonable because they're using state lands. But also opening up new lands to put a downward pressure on the land rentals. So we're spending $10 billion from the LCDS funds to build 2 Hope-like canals in Berbice that will take the water from the backland and deposit the water straight into the Atlantic, bypassing the cultivation areas and the villages. But what that does, it opens up and it drains tens of thousands of acres of land at the back that were unoccupied now, tens of thousands of acres of land that people would be available for distribution to the farmers, and particularly small farmers. So that giving them more land now, and land that is drained now, because without the land being drained, you couldn't do anything there. It floods out all the time. So that canal serves 2 purposes. It prevents flooding, but it also allows us to bring more land into cultivation. We're examining that now, large, so you can empower people to address these issues. A lot of those qualitative type of issues will be addressed. A lot of those. So we talk about education. And right now, we have to find a model, because we will put all the money necessary into education to ensure that when we prepare someone in Guyana, our children, they must be able to compete anywhere in the world, the best education in the world. And we can afford it, and we will invest in it. But that may dictate a rethinking of the current school model and how we focus on teaching children, the curricula, even the method of delivery of education. A whole rethink of education policy. And giving people choices. And so we have a ton of discussion papers. The president, many others have been leading this, the Ministry of Education now. What is the model that we want to pursue, that our children, they have the best education in the world? And even people who are now getting re-educated, not the kids too much, that they can also access a better quality education. At the University of Guyana, how do we focus on quality on all of these programs so that we have the best trained workforce and children? We're of the size that we can do this because we're a small country, not small country, but a small number of people. We can invest in this. We've shown the commitment to do so. We've moved the education budget from $53 billion to $185 billion in the years we've been in office. So the commitment to put the money in is there, and it can grow even bigger. That's where we want to invest the money in the future. But we also have to ensure that the model that we are investing in is yielding the best result for everyone, our children especially. And this is a huge focus in the future. I saw an editorial I think in Guyana Standard saying, healthcare, we must just build 4 hospitals of the 12 and take the rest of the money and pay wages and salaries. So which 4 are you going to build? Which of the 8, which others that you don't want to build? Will you cancel the ones in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9? Should those be the 4 we build, or should we remove those 4? Should we cancel the one in New Amsterdam? Should we cancel the one for the children and maternal one we're doing in Georgetown? Or should we, the one in Berbice, or Essequibo, the one in New Amsterdam? Which one would we cancel? And then, again, the simple thing is that we've explained right here You know, sometimes these editorials and these things, what it make, I read it, and I'm saying if the news media is carrying this sort of thing, it means that the message that we're selling about sustainability, it's not resonating. Because you have to sustain things. There's a plan that you work with. You cannot just like do things without a thought. And sometimes that's what these emotional editorials do. Oh, and they play on people's emotions. I've said right here, we are building 12 hospitals, new ones, for our people all across this country, because we believe that if you live in New Amsterdam, you have the right to have a modern hospital too. Or if you live in Paramakatoy or any part of the country, or I mean Region 1 or Region 8 or any part, or in Essequibo or in Berbice or at Enmore on the East Coast or Diamond. We believe you should have access wherever you live, all of our people. So we are doing that. The ones we said also we're not building, we are rehabilitating. 30 million US rehabilitation of the Linden Hospital. So even if we don't put down a new one, we're modernizing the others. We now have a plan. The minister, we're going to launch these 6 new hospitals before the end of the year. You're going to have 6 new hospitals with CT scans now. That means you need to have about 18, 20 technicians there to run only CT scans. They're starting to train people. We don't have enough people. We're starting to train. The president has said clearly to Minister Anthony, recruit from any part of the world. We want, when these hospitals come into operation, that our people can walk in and get the best service. It would have, and everybody. This is not PPP or app. Or AFC. We don't do a litmus test who goes to our hospital. So we are dealing with personnel too. I know we have shortages, but what are we going to do? Throw up our hands to fix the management problem. We already know many of the hospitals are not properly managed. But the management support will come from Mount Sinai, Northwell, etc. So these things sometimes tell me that we can't have a conversation. If we can't have a conversation in the editorials, which are or in the more informed or enlightened circles about policy, then how do we move forward as a country? Every week you have to come back to the same thing over and over. You give an explanation, you think that people have it and that they're going to focus on it because that's the only pathway to the future. And then the next week you come back and you see a totally asinine article or something of this sort. So it bothers me, like on all of that. So we are working on, so I just outlined a few areas in the next term, but things like housing. We're going to continue investing. We're investing near $300 billion since we got into office. Everybody getting a house. We made it clear. Every Guyanese who wants a plot of land will get it. And we may get to a stage where we can come down back to the 18-year-old being able to apply for and get their plot of land. Once we get past the big backlog that APNU left us. Massive backlog. Imagine they lowered their age from 21, I think, to 18, and didn't do any house, made no investment, but lowered the age. So expanded the pool of people, but then made no investment, and left us with the, I don't want to say what word, It's hernia. I would use the word hernia. Where that's what they left us with. I don't want to say another word. I see critic here. So that's what APNU left us. That's APNU's philosophy. So people will continue to talk about all of this. What the next term, I spoke already about the digitalization of society, the efficiency measures, the service to every Ghanaian you be able to. I don't think you may have to go to government offices to conduct business in the future, in the next term. You don't have to go physically. You don't need to. That's where we're headed. You know, if you want an application in, you don't have to take it in personally. You want to get your payments sorted out. Everything could be done through online portals, secure portals, because that's what we're working with. Your private sector, the interfacing with the banking system, you know, mobile money, your phone becomes almost like a tool on which you conduct all business with the state as well as private sector. That's our vision. We've already working on the building blocks to do that. So today I just wanted to go back because too often we get caught up with all of these little things, you know. I'm going to give you 50,000 more than the PPP is giving you. That's what the APNU and the others in their flyers are putting out. We'll give you 50,000 more. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You have to have a plan and you have to have a vision for where you would like Guyana to be in, say, the next 5 years. We can see that future. We can see that picture. And as I said before, no other political party has done this. So in the course of the week, again, I see people say, Winston Jordan was charged, and I see Demerara Waves quoted the PNC as saying it's malicious. And I looked through almost 5 news agencies. And I'm going to just show you how the issue was represented in 2 of them. So in Demerara Waves, it says former finance minister was Monday charged with another count of misconduct in public office in connection with the sale of more than 5 acres of government-owned land way below market value. It then goes on to say the Guyana Police Force's Special Organized Crime Unit alleged that Mr. Jordan signed a vesting order to sell the land at Plantation, Betavo-Acton, and Sparendam, East Coast Demerara, for $2.4 million instead of a market value of $150 million. They're quite clear, conspired to sell the land at $2.4 million when the market value was this. And then Starbuck News also say the charge alleges that between February 15th and June 2020, Jordan willfully misconducted himself by recklessly signing a vesting order for over 5 acres of land at Betavo-Acton and Sparendam. The land valued at $150 million was allegedly sold for just $2.4 million, an amount significantly below the assessed amount. So if you read all of these stories, you would leave with the impression that this is about the valuation of the land. That because he sold this land at a price below what the market value is, that is why he was charged. Nothing could be further from the truth. What actually took place, that there was an agreement signed by APNU to sell the land at $150 million. The agreement says you have to make a deposit of 10%. So that's $15 million. APNU's agreement, they signed it, the value of the land was put in the agreement. You suppose their company was supposed to pay 10% of the value. Jordan then signed a vesting order transferring the property to the company, and they only paid $2.4 million. Now you can only vest a property or to give transport or title upon the full payment, not the 10% deposit, that's the law, but the full payment of $150 million. He did not even collect the deposit, the $15 million for the deposit. He transferred the land through a vesting order to the ownership of the company. Now they own the land. That is illegal. So that was the issue. It had nothing to do with valuation. So on the face of it, it looked simply, oh, the man sold it, so what? It might be a little lower price and stuff like that. It was just an illegal transaction. So almost all of the news media reflected it as just, he sold it below their price. This is an illegal. This been there, and there are several others where this happened to. Now you think if you transfer the government ownership, then the person owns the land. They have the title for the land now, and title confers some certain rights. So that is what he did here. And so it wasn't malicious. In fact, he did this. This was the order of the day. I can go back and point it out, all the illegal things they did with land, but they don't want us to talk about that now. Like we just had a few weeks ago to expose what Nigel Hughes did. And you saw he went quiet on it, about his role after complaining that lands were being sold at an under market value. We discovered that at the same place where he is claiming that the land was sold for 30 million acres and that was a peppercorn price per acre, that he engineered the sale of land there at 10 million per acre. So duplicitous. Then he pointed out that we should not transfer lands to people in an election year, and he got a ton, 75 acres transferred to himself after the no confidence motion, and 50 acres after the elections were held. This is it. I can go down on the land issue. We have short memories here, and a lot of them are clamoring, oh, why don't you go after people who are committing illegal acts? Jordan, but here now it's malicious. He handed over, I think, 5 acres of land here to a company for $2.4 million and give them the title, 2.4 million Guyana dollars. So where is the malicious behavior on our part? The same ones who clamor for this. Why does Norton speak on this matter, or the AFC? Does he agree with it? They make it look like, oh, we are going after these guys. So at 2:30 today, well, it should have started already, the Minister of Finance will be meeting with the companies that are operating in Guyana with the business process outsourcing sector. Now, we have seen a recent announcement by Teleperformance of the impending closure of their operations in Guyana. So I asked Ashney Singh, what are you being told? And he said that they have spoken about absenteeism, the lack of punctuality, and a couple of cases of fraud, but mainly absenteeism and lack of punctuality. And they operate in a very competitive sector. So you have clients abroad. So if nobody is there, they can't keep the quality of the service up. Like a lot of people apparently are finding jobs elsewhere. So they're leaving, a lot are leaving, or some are showing up late and stuff like that. So I don't know, I don't want to preempt, this is what he was told. That's why he's meeting with them at 2:30 today to find out what is this reality of the sector, and also how many people are going to be affected. And for those who genuinely are affected and want to work, we would engage them, the Guyanese, because we believe that the economy is kicking to such an extent that we can easily find alternate employment for people who may be affected in this area. So we are addressing this issue too, because it is of anything that affects our people, well ultimately we have an obligation to address. I saw the mayor saying he will go to court on the minister's order not to pursue this scam scheme that they're hoping to implement at the city council, where they will, rip people off, take some money for themselves, and then collect money for the party. I want to say to the residents in Georgetown, we support. In fact, if they want to give ordinary people some support across the board, like a man has a house and stuff like that, I can see myself saying to our councillors, the PPP councillors on the city council, let us find a transparent way to assist people, households in the city. Households. But let us do it in a manner where they don't have to come in and give bribe or something to anyone. Do it across the board for the households, people. But not for business, not now. And so that they can, like what I told you the last time, they were giving a massive waiver to GT&T, and then the people never requested the waiver. And they still have not gone after the PNC for the $6.7 billion that they owe the city council. Considering their budget is about $3 billion, what the taxes owed by APNU alone, because they never ever paid, right? Throughout it. When I was president, I didn't even know they were not paying taxes. I didn't look at it. So they never ever paid. And they would not even go after them. They wouldn't mention that. So let me make it clear that we are not supporting a scheme that APNU wants to put in City Hall to rip people off again. So I'm extremely pleased today that the Chief Justice threw out their case that Carol Joseph on behalf of the PNC filed. And if you read the Chief Justice's ruling, and I hope it will be made public soon, you would see how robust she was in defending the right of people to exercise their franchise freely in accordance with the Constitution. This is an ongoing saga. Even as though they speak about democracy and voters list, APNU is trying to take away people's rights to vote. So what, in a nutshell, is this all about? Apart from the position that you need to separate the regional and the national elections, so I'm not going to even deal with that. But the core contention is that if they come to your address today, you're on the voters list, and they can't find you there, you lose the right to vote. That is what they're saying to people. Imagine you just move from some area, you're going somewhere else, you're going out the country, they want a verification of the addresses. And so you gone out the country, you just somewhere else, you in the hospital, people say, or something else, you move out, you lose the right to vote. That is what APNU is trying to secure now. Trying to steal people's right to vote. And this will affect everybody, not PPP alone. You just lose your right as a citizen of the country. And the Chief Justice said, no, the Constitution is quite clear. So that is what they're trying to do. And that is why we cautioned against their version of biometrics. We argued that there are already biometrics on the list, but they wanted to give the right, the determination of your right to vote. They wanted to give that responsibility to 2,500 presiding officers. Take it away from the Constitution of Guyana that protects all of us to 2,500 presiding officers who will check, oh, I don't like you, you don't look so nice in this picture anymore, you lose your right to vote. And you have 2,500 persons who can decide on that. You too ugly, you can't vote. You lose your right to vote. A lot of people may lose their right to vote. No, we have nice people in this country. We're all going to be voting. Right, so this is the nonsense. Every day, these people are trying to shouting at the top of their voices about how democratic they are and all of that. And you heard what I said. People keep asking me, will the PPP ever work with the PNC long term? And I said, yes. We explored that in the past. I remember we went to I was president, and we went to the executive, and the party said, yes, why don't you explore working together? And we had some meetings, and then it broke down because you have to have a platform on which to work together. As I started off with when I spoke about the AFC and others. And I said, two of the essential things that we need APNU needs to move away from before you can even start talking about a joint program, not sharing positions, but joint program. One is the repudiation of rigging of elections and violence. We must condemn that. Even now they can't move away from that. Look at what they're trying to do now, and look at the arguments in court.
With the court case that Nigel used, and the others are doing with the trial that was charged for trying to steal elections in 2020. Look at the court arguments. They're saying we tried to steal elections. So they've not moved away from that. And the second precondition was
stop the racism. Two things we said. If you can move publicly away from that, and we see it, then we can talk about a program to work together for the interests of Guyana. But if you keep with those things, those are the defining things of your party. You don't have any achievement, but those are the defining characteristics. How do you start working together? You start from different bases. So it's interesting for all of those people who are talking about APNU would win the elections. APNU is trying to steal your vote now. Carol Joseph and the PNC. And this doesn't mean you could be a PNC person and they would steal your vote here. Because you show up there, man move out, he loses his right to vote, they remove you from the voters list.
That's what they want by this verification of address now. How many people have moved? And that's why the Chief Justice said people can apply to change their address, but once they met the requirement, they have to be allowed to vote. That's the Constitution. I see a lot has been written about, and last week, about Marco Rubio's comment on the road by the opposition. So the AFC wrote Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, and I think Patterson said that. I wonder if Patterson told him about
all of the things he's charged for, the corrupt practices he's charged for in the letter. So look how quickly they're galvanized around writing something that seems negative. Now, Marco Rubio came to Guyana and he made a strong statement, stronger than any statement we've ever seen so far, in supporting the people of this country, not the PPP, the people of this country, in relation to the maintenance of our territorial integrity and sovereignty. Said it will be a bad day for Venezuela if they choose to attack Guyana or ExxonMobil. It's a robust statement. He spoke about the collaboration with Guyana and the cooperation on several areas. We spoke about U.S. investments in Guyana. So all of this was entirely positive. Marco Rubio also said that he drove down a bumpy road and that it is built by the Chinese. Now, personally, I don't know which road he was talking about, but he has a right to say what he said. Because right now, we have a road from Timeri to Craig that is built by a Chinese company on the main road that was awarded through an Inter-American Development Bank contract that we had to seek approval for to award the contract to the Chinese company. And the United States of America is part of the Inter-American Development Bank. In fact, they have veto powers there for loans, etc. So it could be that road, or it could be the Heroes Highway. It is, I personally, many times people ask me about the bumpy nature of the Heroes Highway, and I too have been critical of this. And we made it clear months ago that there would be an overlay, an asphaltic overlay on this road. And we never said it's built by the Chinese. So Secretary of State Rubio could be speaking because he drove along the entire route. He drove from Timeri to Craig and then he came on the Heroes Highway. But it's not an unfair criticism that the road in some places bumpy. But just think about not having that road. APNU does everything perfectly. They spent $1.6 billion on Durban Park, perfectly. 600 million, according to the Auditor General report, is missing. But that's perfect there. We're using it, a perfect facility, that 1.6 million. This road has solved a problem for so many people. Look at the pace at which we had to go. That's why it was split up into so many components so you can work simultaneously. You award one contract, it would take 5-6 years. 5-6 years. APNU couldn't even do a few roads. If you had awarded a single contract, it's 5 or 6 years to complete that, the way things go in this country. The 12 contractors working simultaneously and a lot of Guyanese contractors. They should be proud that our people are hiring Guyanese, investing, can build roads now too. And the road was available. We started this almost after COVID. And within 2 years of it starting, people on the East Bank, and not just that one, but several others, if you drive down the East Bank, they don't talk about the transformation of the East Bank. People come in the country, people drive up the East Coast, they tell me, I get lost on the East Bank. I don't know which road to turn into. All of these, not on the highway. They don't talk about that. Just imagine us not having that today, where we would be like today, not having a road, a 4-lane road on the East Bank, the Heroes Highway. So we've acknowledged this. It's not, and we said there would be an asphaltic overlay over the road. But these people are negative about anything. They jump gleefully on it, right? They didn't speak anything about the positive visit that we had from the Secretary of State and the robust statement he made in relation to our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Promised to work and with Guyana and the U.S. the close collaboration. They're running down. They're complaining. They're complaining to Marco Rubio. You think Marco Rubio has any time for the AFC with their waste of time? And Patterson of all persons. I didn't know if Cathy Hughes told him about the contract she was taking for herself or all these perfect roads that they are doing. Think about happening and what they've done. Look at all the roads across the country. Some are not done imperfectly too. But I sat here and I spoke about the 95% that are done well. People don't focus on those. It's the 5%. And that's normal and it's understandable. It doesn't mean we accept it. We would like a higher standard, but it's part of the scale of transformation. You look at Region 4 and think Region 4, or any region, but take Region 4. We are here in Region 4 now. You think Region 4 2020 and think Region 4 now. Drive around and see what the energy, the amount of roads, the new businesses, more jobs, etc. People didn't have any jobs, etc. They were scrounging. And I'm not talking the COVID period. I'm talking before COVID with the ineptitude of the government. Just think if you live. Look at Georgetown. Georgetown has been transformed, the roads, etc. All the lights. I saw the parade ground. They just put on the lights in the parade ground. That's something we said in the local government elections. But in Georgetown, all 30-something grounds would have the lights. And I think we missed one in the grounds in Georgetown. So this afternoon, after here, I'm meeting a group of about 20 young people from South Georgetown because we missed one of the grounds. To add that to the list of 34 grounds we're doing from Cummins Lodge all the way to Agricultural. They had no plan for that. They're going to come and say, oh, one of the lights little twisted. You got cockeye light here, or something like that. That's what. Watch next thing they come. Or, oh, they got some little holes on the ground. That's the nitpicking, small-minded party that you deal with. They can't handle large-scale tasks. Just to put together this infrastructure, this massive infrastructure transformation in just less than 5 years, because we had lost a year and a half to COVID. 3.5 years, basically, just over 3 years. And get it implemented, it's a feat in itself. And a testimony to the hard work of many people, many engineers, government officials, contractors, but you do have the bad engineer or the shoddy contractor too. We have those too. And which country doesn't have them? But they will just do that. But they did a perfect Durban Park project there. That's how they work, always perfect. But one little bridge in Moruca, they won Bill, Patterson Bill, right? And they're proud of the bridge that they built in Moruca. We're building now 400 odd bridges. You go to Berbice, you see all the bridges being widened there. Let them, every bridge along the route. Look at the other ones, massive bridges, etc. That's how we work. So I wouldn't pay too much attention. And Secretary of State Rubio is right to, he got a right to say whatever he wants to say. But we missed the whole point of his visit to Guyana and what he said, which was the big thing that we should all be applauding, which is that Venezuela, we've always need to protect ourselves against Venezuela. These people, all right, Maduro and the others are, anyhow, I mean, don't deal with Maduro. These are maybe some of the issues I want to deal with today. Thank you.
Dr. Jagdeo Mikhail Rodriguez for Daybreak News. Are you aware that the Mohammeds went to Barbados recently to meet U.S. officials? And has U.S. law enforcement counterparts reached out to your government to
Can someone lend me a pen, please? Because generally there are four.
relax proceedings against the Mohammed? And that the question for that is, what is the reason for the slothfulness in Guyana executing on the information, or the government and law enforcement executing on the information recently received by the U.S. counterparts?
So it's whether we are aware.
Recently went to Barbados and
Yes,
had talks with U.S. officials.
And then the second question.
Has your government been asked by U.S. officials to ease off of the Mohammeds? And if not so, what is the reason for the slothfulness in executing or bringing charges against the Mohammeds in light of the information U.S. law enforcement has passed on to the Attorney General and local counterparts here?
So, there are several things you asked here. I was hoping not to have to deal with these issues again. So, everyone in Guyana knew that the Mohammeds were going to Barbados. I think they told a number of people that they were going to Barbados. They themselves told people before they went to Barbados. And you know, in Guyana, you tell one man a secret and everybody knows. Then I saw they did not hide their presence in the Barbados. They were busy posting pictures of themselves in Barbados. So everyone knew they were going and knew when they were there. Did they go there on a vacation? No. The answer was, from what they said, they were going to meet the U.S. prosecutors. Now that in itself raises a question. You don't go to meet a U.S. prosecutor unless there is an issue. So whilst they're busy claiming in Guyana or avoiding addressing the key issue, which is why they were sanctioned, for the export of over 10,000 kilograms of gold and evading $11 billion of taxes. I wonder if there, and that somehow the PPP was through its vindictively causing these actions against them, because the PPP is worried that they're contesting the elections. Whilst they're saying that in Guyana, I wonder if they told the U.S. prosecutors that, the 10,000 kilogram that the U.S. said, and that they have a mountain of evidence to show that they evaded, that was a PPP plot. So I'm wondering what they would have told the prosecutors. But the mere fact you're going to Barbados to meet the prosecutors, is there an issue there? The issue is not Guyana issue. So it was not a vacation. And for a number of people who've been blaming the PPP, saying that, oh, this man can't travel. We never said that. He has not traveled for years because he must be afraid of something. It's self-imposed travel ban. But really, if you go to Barbados, that's not no big destination you're going to. You got to be really desperate to post like your picture on Barbados, say, look, I'm traveling now. It is I'm really, it's funny for me, frankly speaking, when you have to just big up Barbados as your big destination you could travel to. A man showed he was in Paris or somewhere else, or in Manhattan. This is something that we knew of. They sought to convert the trip into criticism of the PPP again. I stayed quiet on the matter. But that is what. So I don't know what happened here. They met with the U.S. prosecutors. They told people that their lawyer arranged it. Their lawyers arranged it. I don't know what they discussed there. But clearly, there was an issue to discuss. And it had nothing to do with the PPP persecuting them. The second matter is Anil Nandalal is still working, and there are tons of information. That's why it's taking time to supply the requisite information to the U.S. government. He told me he was in direct contact with them on Tuesday, up to last Tuesday. So the information requested by the U.S. government, it's voluminous, and it's going to be supplied. And then, in relation to the local investigation, which I said long before, it was sometime last year, that's happening now. It's comprehensive, and at the appropriate time, you will see, as the Attorney General pointed out in his comment a couple days ago, at the appropriate time, action will be taken. Now, this involves multi-agency look at the problem, but it doesn't relate only to the 5 years that the PPP, the U.S. government, they said that the 10,000 kilogram were smuggled out of Guyana from 2019 to 2024. That's the time period. Apparently, there was some tax settlement before that, but it's been brought to the attention of the government that on the declaration or the smuggling of gold was taking place long before 2019. So if your tax liabilities for that period alone was $50 million US, leaving out penalties, then the government agencies have to look at all of the other issues too. So it's a comprehensive look at it. And they brought it all upon themselves. It wasn't PPP didn't tell them to smuggle gold. So first of all, the PPP didn't tell them to smuggle gold. The PPP can't tell the US government to sanction them because they were smuggling gold and accused Azruddin and the others for money laundering. We didn't do that. But once it happened, we had to protect our country and our people. So the big expectation was they would be defended by the PPP. And I don't think it happened, so they are peeved. So the investigations are ongoing, and the technical agencies deal with this. I don't, on a daily basis, check what's happening in these areas because that's not my portfolio. But given that they've been calling my name a lot frequently, I'm vindictive and all of that, trying to gain sympathy from the lie that we are going after them. That's why I've been paying more attention to the matter.
Last week, the Mohammed's security license was suspended. Why, almost a year after the sanctions, any specific reason why just recently, and any updates on GRA present investigation of them for the vehicles?
So the last position I know from the GRA is that after the failure to address the issue of the false declaration on the vehicles and for the vehicles imported directly by them or third parties associated with them, there were other preconditions that I read out here. So residency in the country for 183 days. So they had 14 days to give satisfactory explanations to the GRA or pay the taxes. From what I gather, that did not happen. And so a notice was sent to them to bring in the vehicles, that they had 7 days to bring in the vehicles, because these are vehicles on which hundreds of millions have been avoided. They have 7 days to do that. So I think the 7 days will expire soon. And on the other matter, I don't know why the security, because the security licenses and all of that, the gun licenses, they had 50-something weapons, and people thought it's personal firearm that were taken. It's the 50-odd weapons that they had in a security company. I don't know if they still had this security company, because the security company, I think they got the license was because of the gold. They had to move the gold and also operated a cambio. So once they can't move the gold, and they're not prohibited from trading gold now based on the US sanctions, and based on the sanctions they've lost the cambio license. So their original justification for this, I think it doesn't hold any longer. Go on.
Dr. Jagdeo, has your government been monitoring how, in terms of how Guyanese are affected by Trump's immigration policies? Only this morning, 4 persons were pulled off a flight, and at this time it's uncertain whether they will be sent back. But this has been happening quite a few times. I have received several reports in the last month of people who have visas, and when they go to the airport, they realize their visas are being revoked and so on. The instances of these reports are growing. Is your government monitoring this? And
this is the first time I'm actually hearing about this issue. I was not aware I'm aware that generally this happens, not now under Trump alone, that people can, even if they go in with, they have a valid visa, but they check, for example, that the last time you came, you spent like 5 months, you give them 6 months, and you spend 5 months, and then you come back a month later. They would not allow you in. So I know of a few cases like that, because I guess they would assume that the people were working there, but not of recent. And the U.S. immigration has the right to do that. They can, even if you're issued with a visa, they can not allow you entry into the country.
I have 2 more questions, Dr. Jagdeo. Melissa Ann Atwell came out of custody and wrote a statement on her Facebook page, which Stabrook News wrote an article to suggesting she was being defiant, came out and started attacking persons again, and clearly stated in her post that the PPP had involvement, while accepting that she had gotten married 2 days after her visa had expired. How is your government looking at these malicious attacks, and how you plan to address this, or you just
ignore them? That's what we do all the time. We ignore them. As I said before, people are sensible. If people go to these pages, like, Ghanis like a little scandal. They like some rumors, they like all sorts of things. They get talking points at the rum shop or wherever. But when I look at people, and I have great faith in them, when they have to decide how to choose a government, they look at their interests. They start looking at jobs. Can I get a better education for my children? Health care, who's tackling health care, who will keep me safe in the home, that sort of thing. Where can I get some help from the government? Will I get a receptive ear from them? Or and they will make a determination there. I have great faith. So I don't begrudge people going to a page and looking at what's there. Some people think that, or posting a like next to a man dressing up in fancy clothes and posting a picture of himself and stuff like that. I don't begrudge them. People, let them have their way. We know what we're about. So I don't want to get involved. People will judge what Ms. Atwell is saying herself. Whether there are contradictions in what she's saying, those can be pointed out, and people will judge that for themselves. I can say, as I said before, we have either way. She stays in the United States of America, I wish her well. And she comes back home, this is a free country, this is our home too. She'll be accepted back. She's our citizen. And so people who have issues with her, they can use the legal system to tackle it. If they believe that there's defamation, let them go. That's why the laws are there. Sue her, and then let her give the answers. If she gives the answers, then that's fine with us. I don't have a particular view every day paying attention to all of these things.
Dr. Jagdeo,
I like to check out Norton and the funny things, and Nigel Hughes and stuff talking nonsense. I don't pay too much attention to these people.
we are in an election year, and the judiciary plays an integral role in how things go, because people go and seek redress from the judiciary in cases where they feel they have not been properly served. The Chief Justice has just made a ruling that is supportive of all Guyanese. Do you think in our judicial system there is quite a bit of judicial activism by judges? Case in point, recently I got a default, Mohammed's got a default judgment against me. I didn't have a day in court. and they got a default judgment against me. This happened to you with the Annette Ferguson case. And so many times we have to leave our judiciary and go outside to get redress for people with clear minds to make decisions. The many cases, and this is an election year, obviously a lot of cases are going to come up. Are you worried about how our judicial system is operating in some cases, and what is your government planning to do about it?
So from my understanding of both issues that you mentioned, you lost the case in court because your lawyer did not file a response in time. The same thing happened to me. My lawyer did not file the response in time. So you can't blame the judge for giving a default judgment. What I'm concerned about is the speed at which some people get default judgments and others get a chance to rectify their action when their lawyers don't submit in time. So in my case, I said, I lost the case, but I argued that I had justification in saying what I said. I wanted to go to court and prove what I said was accurate, what I said about Annette Ferguson is the truth. Never got a chance to, because there was a default judgment. We had to go to another court, and right now I'm getting that opportunity. We had to go to the higher court. In your case, from what I gather, the default judgment was made. It has nothing to do with the merits of the allegation that you're proven wrong. Because when you get a default judgment, you have not been able to prove the case. What is more concerning is injunctions in these cases, particularly for public figures and journalists. So when I saw you got an injunction for matters that everyone else is discussing, that you can't speak on those matters, that was a little concerning to me, because everyone else is discussing this, including the Mohammeds. It's in the public domain. Up to a few weeks ago, they're saying that on the paper short matter that I never paid much attention to, but now I see a lot being said about it, that I want them jailed for it, and I've been discussing with Roger Khan this matter. Now, if I see Roger Khan today, I wouldn't recognize him. It's not true. But the matter has been there in the domain with Bascom's accusation, etc. But how could some people discuss it in the public domain and others can't discuss it? I can understand if the injunction stops everyone from doing so. So those are the kinds of things. But I can't say that's a case of judicial activism. The matter you outlined, because you lost your case. You lost your case because, from what I gather, you didn't file the documents in time. And you can't blame the judge for that. You may beg the judge to give you a squeeze and stuff like that, like, oh, I need to present it, give you a reprieve. But that is the more worrying part, that it's looked like this sustained thing is muzzling people. Yeah. Go.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jagdeo. Sharvin Belgrade, Kaiser News. These tariffs, I've heard you mention some things that, especially seafood, that Guyana exports to the United States of America. Yes. Does these tariffs will have any impact on the country's economy, especially the revenues that are so essential to paying back debt? And I see they mentioned something about.
You were here earlier? Or
No,
you
no,
came
no.
late?
Came late.
Well, please look at what I said. I went into it in great detail. I even outlined where the exemptions are. So please check what I said earlier, because I think you came late. All right? On the tariff.
Did you mention anything on the trade barriers that they spoke about? What are these trade barriers that they said that again?
I explained it all. Just look at it. It had nothing
Okay.
to do, the basis on which the tariff is calculated was your trade surplus with the United States of America.
Secondly, Guyana imports a lot of goods for the country. Almost 90% what we need we import, and we pay for that from the revenue from our exports like gold, oil, timber, bauxite. What is the government's plan? And we know these are non-renewable resources, so when this depletes, what is the government plan, especially knowing that we need these items we import? Should these resources be depleted?
Did you, what point you came in? Because this is the objective of having a plan that has a short-term component, medium-term, and a long-term component, and situating all that you're doing within that plan. So I spoke of that earlier, and that we're the only party that's looking at it. Last week, I think I spoke of the identification of 5 new growth poles that will create the wealth of the future for Ghana that is outside of the oil and gas sector, the depleting industry. And the need to create the incentives and the infrastructure to stimulate investment and growth in those non-oil areas. So should our revenue from the natural resources sector wane, dip in the future, either because of obsolescence or because of market volatility, then we would have a growth in other sectors to fill the gap so that we don't suffer from short-term prosperity. That's what I was addressing earlier today, that you have a comprehensive plan, that you can sustain all you do over a longer period. So inherent in the plan I'm talking about is a contingency for what you are saying, the loss, the depletion of our assets, and losing income from the depletion of the assets. Okay?
And thirdly, is the government still going to pursue, I know the last time you had promised that the government is going to take the media on a tour to these large-scale mining areas and so forth. Is the government still going to take the media on a tour?
Did I promise that?
Yeah, a while back.
I don't recall the government doing that, but...
You said you will speak to the Ministry of Natural Resources to organize so they can take some media to see what's going on there.
But let me see if I can arrange it. Glenlal wants to come on the tour. What is he doing, by the way? I don't
know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. But
Yeah,
I'm sure he would like to come on the tour, indeed.
You'd invite him on the tour.
Yeah.
You need a tour too, to Berbice, him to, you know what I mean? Right, yeah. Now, I don't want to, Barbicians, I'm not saying anything bad about Berbice, you know. I don't say anything bad, but, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm going to look into it to see if we can arrange it, yeah. I thought you only wanted the large-scale mining contracts, which I gave you. You were complaining for it 3 years, you didn't have it. Every week you're cussing me out. Then you got it and nothing. I made sure you got all of the large-scale mining contracts. Because we have nothing to hide. And we had nothing to hide too. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.